Oh, you got the mic? Yeah, okay.
You're good? Okay. So Jim Fielders is a mechanical engineer by profession. And Jim is, he took the 1-ton challenge from the federal government in 2005 and then decided he had to do something about climate change. So he started a renewable energy business, which is called Jade Consulting, bought a Prius and decided to build a green home in Burlington that was constructed in 2010. Today, Jim is going to talk about affordable housing, which incorporates energy, carbon, and money-saving green upgrades. And I'm going to hand it over to you. Where you go, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I've kind of morphed from some of the talk you heard earlier, solar panel installations for farmers, and I got into heat pumps, and now I feel there's a real crisis in housing that is not affordable. So I'm concentrating now on backyard accessory units. There's been some new zoning changes, even in Milton, even though Milton tends to be behind the crowd. They are catching up. So there is good news even in Milton, but the rest of Halton is pretty good. So what is a backyard unit? It comes by different names. You hear garden suite, laneway home, ARU, accessory residential unit, ADU, accessory dwelling unit. They're talking about this thing you put in your backyard compared to the house you've got. And in some places you need parking for an extra unit, some you don't. And it can't be bigger than the existing house, and there's limits on how big and how high and how far from lot lines it has to be. So I've met recently people in the business. This is an example of a picture of a site before they did a unit and afterwards. And they come in all shapes and sizes. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what I've come up with is a plan for both a renter and a landlord to kind of partner so that eventually the renter becomes the owner of part of this residential property. So the steps to do that is, first of all, you got to build a unit to live in. You got to get over that hurdle. Then you can rent it for a profit, or if you want to be more charitable, you can just rent it to break even or even take a loss, depending on what your objective is. So then you can create this rent with option to buy. So the rental payments would actually go towards the purchase or paying off the mortgage over time. And you have to have a proper contract. I've got a lawyer who's looking into the details of this. It's not uncommon. Two people can buy a house anywhere in Canada and have it owned as tenants in common, compared to a married couple who have joint tenancy. So in joint tenancy, one dies, it goes to the other, not in tenants in common. It's just a legal issue. So then you can sell that ARU to the tenant with, say, the outstanding purchase price paid in full on death of the seller. If you want to take that route, that's not mandatory. So here's kind of what you can expect. They typically have an open living, dining, kitchen area, bathroom, and in this case, a couple of bedrooms. What they don't normally have is storage. So this is key. So you can only have this for, say, a washer and dryer, but the type of heat pump that I put in is hung from the ceiling, and then it's ducted to the different rooms. So then you can also have a water heater in here. So, and like, what do you do with all your junk, all your kids' sports equipment? You need to look at that.
How many square feet is that, Jim?
So this, I'm looking at between 700 and 900 square feet. There are other ones. So here's kind of an example. You can see this all over the internet, YouTube. I'd say 99% of them are not legal, because they take, mobile homes and think they can be lived in the winter, or an RV, park them in your backyard. None of those is legal. So you have to go through the proper process, and you can't do it in Halton without going through that process. So this is one that you don't have a basement, you have footings going down to frost. This is the least expensive way to construct. This one's got solar panels. In my backyard, I got too many trees, so this isn't an option for me, but it can be in cases like this. And you can add on porches and get different designs. This is another one that is just a 1-bedroom with 2 beds in it. But as you see, this one doesn't have any storage. So this is the inside of this one with a bedroom back here. And again, where's the storage? There's a kind of a big cabinet here in the bathroom, but that's probably not sufficient. So in terms of what affordability means is most banks and recommendations by government say that your principal, interest, and taxes, if you're buying a property, should be no more than 30% of gross income. So for example, if someone's on a minimum wage, and it's just gone up to $18.15 an hour, I think this week, federal minimum wage, and you can work a full 40-hour week work week, it's 2,000 hours. So you have a, what happened here?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, so you can have an income of 36,000 gross before taxes and everything else. So 30% of that is 10,000 or just, 900 a month. So, it's kind of hard to find a place to rent for that, obviously. So you should also allow for insurance and repairs. Taxes is another issue. So if you're looking at purchasing, if you want to build a unit and rent it out, you want to get about $1,200 a month. And when renters look at this, because they wouldn't pay repairs and that type of thing, they should be budgeting about $1,000 a month. So a lot of people aren't, in my opinion, budgeting properly. So for a young worker, let's just go through what they're looking at. If they have an income of, say, 35,000, and they're able to put a few bucks away every month, they might have some investments, $500. They wouldn't have pensions yet. They may have a little side business. So they might end up with 36,000 a year. So how do you divide that up? Well, you can see the red is your 30% for your rent. But then what do you spend on everything else? Because you want to enjoy life. You want to go on the odd vacation, or have a car, or donate to charity or whatever. So people should be budgeting at various stages of their life. And I just saw a video of a woman who's a financial planner, but most of these financial planners say you have to have a net worth of $500,000 before they'll talk to you. This woman is a fee only, so there's no limit. She works on young, high-income people who don't have a big net worth, but she will offer her services for a fee. I don't know how much, but the point is it's someone who will help you do your planning. So then when you look at everything under the living category, so I had living as, where is it here? This pie here, so that's another third. How do you divide that up? Well, half of it for most people is food, and it's probably going up, every day as we speak. So again, the point is to do proper budgeting, and you may have to cut back on your phone and internet, or you shouldn't cut back on healthcare. You may have to cut back on going to the pub. Anyway, so if you do this concept, what does a landlord do? So he builds an ARU. So any homeowner of a single family lot can build an ARU in their backyard, subject to certain conditions. So you have to decide on the size of it and where it's going to go, design the unit, prepare drawings, and then you get quotes for construction and hire a contractor, apply for a building permit, advertise for a tenant, and construct the unit and complete inspections, and then the tenant moves in. But before that, what's the the tenant going to do? Well, let's look at some more. Sorry, these are out of order. To keep the costs down for construction, if you go all electric, as previous presenters have shown, it's more cost effective to go with solar power and heat pumps and other electric powered equipment, even an induction hot plate. You don't need a full stove and range and oven. If you can, an induction hot plate and an air fryer may be fine. So you can have solar panels, and you can have a battery backup, as we talked about, landscaping approach that can save money. And we mentioned solar net metering. So I've got a way of a spreadsheet that calculates the load required for all these different appliances. And typically, if you're in the sun, 6 panels on the roof can power one of these units. And that's under net metering without battery backup. So another way to finance this, most people think, well, I got to put a down payment of 10, 20% and then, mortgage it, principal and interest. Well, no, you can actually go to some lenders, and this is becoming more common all the time. Instead of a mortgage that would cost you $855 a month, this is $160,000, 5 years for 30 years. If you just get a line of credit and only pay the interest, or you get an interest-only loan, you can reduce your monthly payments to $533. Well, $200 a month is big when you're talking $1,000 a month. So this can help the balance sheet. You still have to pay the piper in the end when the loan is actually due, where you sell the property. That's the best time to sell it, because you pay it off when you sell it, because it's appreciated in value, hopefully. So then you can do other things like putting a battery backup unit, and you can just hook one of these $500 inverters to your car. That's what I've got. I've got a little thing down here as well. That's more money because it's got a lithium battery in it. So that's $2,000 versus a $500 one that you just put on the battery terminals of your car when the power goes out. So for example, my freezer, I save $10 a year. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a third of the total energy cost for that freezer by having it plugged into one of those. I'm getting a little off topic. I've also done drought resistant landscaping with Sean James to reduce my water consumption. So let's look at operating costs as well as the initial purchase price. So utilities, I've got formulas that calculate all this as a function of the square footage of a dwelling. So in this case, it's $71, utilities, repairs, $42, property taxes. I've assumed the municipality is going to give me a break. That may not be the case. It could be $1,000 a year, which is close to another $100 a month, which is significant again. Insurance, you got accountants, lawyers, whatever, consultants. This is beyond getting a building permit and all that stuff. So you're looking at 167 in operating, and then you add the reduced loan of 533, you're paying $700 a month. Sorry, your costs as the landlord are $700 a month. So you're renting it for $1,000 and you're making $300 a month. You're not going to get rich quick overnight, $3,600, but at least that's a positive cash flow, which grows in time. And there are tools on different websites that show you 20, 30 year summary of all the finances. So what does a tenant do? Well, initially, when you're looking at this proposition, you would talk to people who want to eventually own the unit. And that can be sold separately than the rest of the property, again, with this tenants in common legal agreement, and you need a good legal agreement. So out of the $1,000 a month, $800 would go towards financing, paying off the capital cost, and then they would have expenses. And so they're paying $12,000 annually. So this rental agreement is the rent amount of $1,000 a month. The purchase price is $200,000. Then they need easements and agreements, and you need a good contract that people understand before they move in what the rules are. Access to the dwelling, should be a walkway from the street, use of surrounding outdoor amenity area, parking space, use of the main house laundry. In my case, I would let the tenant use the laundry room in our house. And then they have 800 plus utilities for the actual cost, whichever is greater. So utilities may vary. So you pay off that every month. 800 goes towards the purchase price, and based on the 5% rule, this would take 21 years. Or again, you could bequeath this to somebody. Yep. Where's your mic?
5 minutes.
Oh, you're doing 5, not high. Okay. So again, that 800 goes towards the purchase price. It's a 21-year period, or paid in full. Okay, now Faith is going to talk about dealing with tenants because she does this perfectly. Oh, you need both of these.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Faith. I'm working with Jim Fillers on affordable housing and property management. Property management, when landlord doesn't want to deal with tenants because it can be stressful and also takes a lot of time from landlord, because a lot of landlord they have a lot of profession, like they're doctors, engineers, like nurses, whatever, and they have extra houses, and they want to do property management. So I already have experience with 2 different houses, so we can help them with rental agreements, rent collection, and a lot of things, and property damage and maintenance and filing income tax. So this is where we come and help landlords. So you can introduce us to any person who wants to do property management, or if you have in your own mind for your houses to do property management, you can connect us with this information here about the energy solution and stuff. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, that was most interesting. It's challenging to contemplate how you do one of these additional dwelling units on a residential property, because as you pointed out, there are so many complications, but the cost is the big factor. Is how do you rationalize the cost of this new infrastructure in your backyard and make it affordable for the person who's looking for somewhere to live. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you've gone to put that presentation together. And I know you have lots more kind of thoughts in your head about how this works and different models of how it could work, but certainly this is an interesting starting point. For anyone here who has questions of Jim or of Faith, they have a booth beside the front door, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer further questions before the end of the show. Thank you.